Hey, Emily, my beautiful daughter. How are you doing today? I'm doing pretty good. Woohoo! Better than I've been in a long, long time. uh, see, today is the 2nd of September. It is Labor Day 2019. And I wanted to create a message for you and a nice video message. Get some time with my number one daughter. And, you know, um, teach you a life lesson. Hey, that's what dads are all about, right? And so, one idea that I'm playing with right now that is really compelling to me is this idea of projection and how projection is everywhere and everything, and that essentially, um, everything that's internal is external. That somehow everything is a projection, 100%. And I wanted to explore this topic with you and give you some of the insights that have occurred to me over the last few days and weeks and months as I've been considering this idea. Because I think it's important. In fact, I think it's vitally important to really understand what projection is and its impact on your experience of your life. And I also want to mention that I think this recognition about projection is a very empowering idea. It means that you can change your entire life in a moment if you so choose. And at the same time, with not only it's empowering in a lot of ways. It could turn your life into a heaven and into a hell. It's certainly your choice, and I think it's important to recognize that choice. And so, well, first of all, let me just start at the beginning about what I think projection is. There are a lot of other people who've got ideas about what projection is, and I'm not educated enough to know them. But I've got a common everyday layman's person understanding of projection, and I wanted to share it with you. So, if you go to a movie theater, there's a projector, right? It projects. There's a light bulb that throws light onto the theater screen in front, and it throws it going through film in the film room, in the camera room, right? So what's happening is that the material that's in the film room, that is the information on the film, the plastic film, which resides inside the film room, is being projected so that the image appears outside the film room onto the projection screen. And that's how I think about the human mind quite often. The material is inside the skull, right? It's physically located here in the brain. And as we look outside, I mean, from a physics standpoint, we're always receiving information. But from a psychological standpoint, all that information is being interpreted by our brains, right? And a nice metaphor is that of a projector, a projection screen. In a way, when we do the act of interpretation of our external world, that's the projection that I'm talking about. We are sort of interpreting and understanding these visual inputs based on what we already know, right? The material that's in our mind. And that material is memories, experiences. Some of it may relate to just how the brain processes information. A lot of how we interpret this visual input or this sensory stimuli is based on conditioning that we received in the past. And I acknowledge that there might be, there's process information related to how the brain processes information, the sensory information, that whole string of perception. Anyway, I just want to sort of make real this idea that projection is continual. It happens all the time. And it happens in the process where we make interpretations of our sensory data. And how I envision this quite often is I just sort of envision human beings like throwing meaning onto our external world, like an artist throws paint on a canvas. I think that's a very vivid example where we are artists and we're just painting meaning all over. And this canvas is a blank canvas. It's a blank slate, very similar. What is it? John Locke's um, blank canvas idea of the mind. Um, I think of all external reality as being valueless, meaningless. Um, I believe that we live in a purely mechanical universe where meaning is created only in our minds. And it's, you know, and there's no external objective meaning that's out there. It's all internal, it's all subjective. And that's amazing. That's an existentialist viewpoint. And you're welcome to explore existentialist philosophy. But essentially, what they're saying is that there's no value that necessarily overrides any other value in an objective sense. That is, it's us who determines our hierarchy of values. And, we make these decisions every day as we choicefully move around our days. And so there's no inherently hierarchical set of values, which means that there's no best value. A lot of people talk about survival being the best value, or money, or who knows, maybe love. But really, there is no objectively valuable thing. There's nothing inherently valuable. There's no inherent value in the world of anything. And it's just biology, a few pure fluke of evolution that human beings are motivated the way we are, right? It's a physical process. And, it's just the way things ended up. They got shook together through the natural processes of natural selection and random mutation. And so anyway, this is the view that this is sort of the background of the view that I've got right now. And it's really working for me. It's really working for me. And I'm sensing that I'm making great strides and improvement in how my life is turning out because of this idea of projection. It's really powerful. So let me get into it. So the idea of projection essentially means that the material that's inside of you in your mind gets projected outward and sort of painted onto your external reality. What this means is that if you're painting yourself with judgments, say, then you'll be painting your external world with judgments, right? Or if you're painting your internal world, there's a lot of anger in your internal world, then in your external world, you'll see a lot of anger. That anger will be reflected back to you. And that's because when you make an interpretation, you make interpretation based on concepts and ideas that are available to you. It's only natural. If you're getting this sensory input, it's raw, neutral input, and you are going to apply meaning to that input, well, you apply meaning based on the words that you know, based upon the moods and emotions that you know, that you're familiar with. They're just available, right? Like this word, let's say I've been thinking about chocolate lately, right? It's on my mind. It's on my mind a lot. So, and I might describe like what chocolate's like. Like chocolate is rich and sweet, and who knows? Maybe it's mild. Okay, these are the words that I use to describe chocolate, which is on my mind. Well, when I look out into the world and start interpreting events around me, I will use the very same words, the very same connotations that are available to me when I describe chocolate. So I might think of a person as sweet. I might think of I might think of a situation as complex because the dark chocolate is complex, because I've been thinking about complexity of flavor, right? And so this has a lot of implications. in the past, I've talked about controlling your media intake, right? Because you can get there's a lot of stimulus out there. Other people they're projecting their worlds, they're projecting their inner material on the world, and newspaper reporters, they're always putting meaning onto stuff, and then that meaning is coming into your field, into your awareness, and then you're taking in their internal stuff, and you're changing what's available to you changes, and because of those inputs, you're being conditioned by external environment. So really, it's important to sort of guard what material is available to you, and sort of do a good job of sort of tailoring and ensuring that the concepts that you're dealing with on a regular basis are the concepts that you're willing to extend into your external reality. So what this means is that, my relationship with you, Emily, is, it is the way it is. And, but that relationship gets reflected in a lot of ways. The words I use to describe our relationship, I describe in other relationships too. Like, I'm with you in the same way I'm with my brothers, in the same way I'm with my mom, in the same way I'm with my dad, and I'm with my dad in the same way I'm with you. I am with you. This is all. It's just there's a lot of reflection going on, mainly because when it comes to me putting meaning onto the world, I do it. I've got a certain set of words that I tend to use a lot, and I use those words for everything that I do. When I go to school, I use those words. When I go to work, I use those words. In my relationships, I use those words. Even when I talk to myself, I use the words that are available to me. These are material. This is when I free associate. I free associate poetry and letter writing with using words, concepts, phrases, connotations, moods, emotions that I am familiar with. I mean, if you think about it, it could be no other way. There's no other way it could happen. So what I'm interested in doing is just, my intention is to raise your awareness and let you know that, everybody's got like this set of 10,000 words that they use all the time to explain their reality. It's only about 10,000 words. I don't know how many words there are in the English language, but I guess that there's probably, say, 150, 200,000 words. There's probably more words being created every day anyway. But I don't have access to all the words. I don't have access to all of them. My mind just can't carry, 200,000 words, vocabulary, and sort of string those words together to form meaning and concepts. My capability is just not that great. So I pretty much use just 10,000 words. And here's a word I've been working on lately. I've been saying that I've been surprised by stuff. And, I don't like the word surprise because it has this connotation of, how should I say, there's an uncertainty, there's an unpleasantness about surprise. There's a connotation of surprise as being a bad thing quite often. And it can also be a judgment. Oh, I'm surprised. That can be a judgment, a deep judgment for a lot of people. So I decide not to use that word surprise. I use unplanned. Oh, or I didn't expect. Now that also carry with it some judgment, but I think it carries less judgment than using the word surprise. So there's an example of me sort of tailoring, wordsmithing my narrative so that I don't ever get surprised anymore. I'm always amused or recognizing how unplanned something is, because I want to get rid of that word surprise, and I don't want it as part of my conscious field anymore. What I mean by conscious field, like, I'm a physicist, so I know what a field is, right? But what I mean by field is I mean my span of awareness, and also how I create meaning in the world with my narrative. If I've got only 10,000 words to create a narrative of meaning with, I want to make sure those are great words. I want to make sure those are amazing words that um, that I love to use and that make my life better. So now getting back to this projection idea and how pretty much everything is a reflection of how you treat yourself. So I have a tendency to have a highly regulated personality. That means I'm quick to judge. Well, at least I'm quick to perceive and quick to react. And I have definite preferences about the way I want things to be, right? I fall into specific behavioral patterns, certain ruts in terms of my behavior, and I've got a lot of automatized material in terms of just the acts that I perform, right? And so I'm highly regulated. My brain loves to get entrenched in a certain set of behaviors. And this is good and bad. It means that my emotional life is pretty rocky because there's a lot of, and whenever change happens, I'm like, I want to regulate it, right? I want to control it. And that's just typical of what I call a highly regulated personality. It's kind of a perfectionist personality. But there are flip side. There's a flip side to that coin, and that is something I really appreciate is my responsiveness, my action, my energy. My willingness to handle and manage the things that are around me, and to form and tailor those things. A willingness to put energy into, I'll call it exacting control over my external environment. But of course, here's the problem. I'm optimistic, and I'm continuously failing in bringing about the idealism that is in my mind, that my mind continuously puts together as lofty goals. So I've got lots of optimism, tons of optimism, and also tons of complete and utter disappointment about my ability to pull things together. Now, here's the facts. I'm largely successful. So despite this vaunted optimism and hopefulness, idealism, and having a mind open to possibilities, I'm also continuously distraught over loss and how things aren't working and how things are breaking down. So I've got this really high contrast between feeling great all the time and feeling miserable all the time. So that's part of the reason why this narrative talk is really important to me, because it helps. If I choose to write 10,000 words, then I can make more mild my assessments about the world and my judgments about myself when I fail to make the changes I want to change, make the changes I want to make happen. So that's why narrative is important to me, just because my personality demands that I have keen awareness over what's going on, including the contents of my mind, not just my external reality or my internal reality. Well, not only just my external reality, but also my internal reality too. So more on this projection idea. So what this projection idea means is, because you've got a core of, say, 10,000 words that you use all the time to create meaning, choose those words carefully. I think what it means is that not only is it my relationship with others is essentially a reflection of my relationship with myself, and that my relationship with myself is a relationship of a reflection of my relationship with others. It's not just people. It's not just people. It's actually all things. So my relationship with myself is very similar and reflective of my relationship with the earth. My relationship with myself is very reflective of my relationship with rocks, with the streams, with the weather, with temperature, with water. So, if I only have 10,000 words, I use those 10,000 words to describe everything in my reality, not just other people, not just myself, but even things as simple as trees and light poles and playing cards and inanimate objects. Certainly, the same applies to animals as well. So, it's really quite fascinating, and there's quite a rabbit hole to explore here, and I think that it's actually quite valuable. You know, and here's the thing: here's the thing about reality that I know, particularly about the human body. You can't ever get away with anything free. You can't. You can't be really judgmental inside your mind about yourself and your own behavior and your own thoughts, and be kind and loving and honest in a consistent way with others in your relationships externally. That's probably the most key, most valuable lesson to this idea about projection, and that is you don't get the luxury of having a judgment-free external reality and an absolutely judging self reality. You just don't. Wouldn't it be great if there was this amazing disconnect where you could be a bright shining light to all around you, but it'd be really strict on yourself and self-regulating, and a perfectionist, continuously judging yourself? Wouldn't it be great to have that dichotomy going? I don't know. That's entirely would be a good thing, but you can't do that. In fact, the more you love yourself, the more you'll love others. And the more you love others, the more you'll love yourself. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous how much reflection there is going on in terms of how meaning is created. And I think it's very valuable to know about this. It's very valuable. And you know what? Here's the facts. Everyone's different. Every personality is different. There are people who are more prone to judge. They judge more easily. There are people who are more prone to perceive. They judge less easily. I believe it or not, I tend to be one of the less morally judgmental types. I'm really not very much a morally judgmental type. Where my judgments come in is where I recognize discrepancies between what I want and what I have. Like, that's not necessarily a moral judgment, although it is clearly a moral judgment. It's not a plainly moral judgment, but there are things that I want and things that I don't want, and things that I have and things that I don't have. And I recognize those differences pretty strongly. And so I've got a lot of energy that's available to me in my body and in my mind to help bring those discrepancies down as close as they can to zero. And so I'm actually quite busy and active and trying to create those, trying to minimize those discrepancies between my ideal world and my actual world. And so that is something that I continually do every day. And it's not, for me, it's not about moral judgment. It's not about whether people are right or wrong, And here's another thing. I'm really not even locked into true or false. I'm not locked into true or false. I'm totally serious. I could see a different person's perspective, 100%. In fact, there is a tendency for me when I have a conversation with someone who's a true believer to become a true believer too. And then when I'm with another person who's also a true believer, but with an opposite belief system, I will totally align myself to that belief system too. Whoever I come across, I just totally align myself to them. That's just who I am. I merge with them. It's completely unhealthy. And I totally recognize it, but that's just how I relate to people. It's just how I relate. It's a beautiful gift because it allows me to find alignment with anyone in the world and literally fall in love with anyone in the world at a moment's notice. At the drop of the hat, I can fall in love with anyone. And it's a wonderful gift. I'm like a dog, who just loves anyone and everyone who'll just be next to them. That's exactly who I am. I'm like the golden retriever of human beings. Um, Always excited to see everyone who walks into proximity to me. That's just who I am. I am the golden retriever of human beings. but but there's a problem there. There's a problem because I just get too enamored with other people, and I just fall. I just I just fall for them, and pretty much fall for anything too. So there's a flip side of that coin. Yeah, it's just part of my personality. So anyway, other people have different personalities, right? And Emily, I'm not quite sure what your personality is like, and I would definitely be open to paying for you to take up, like, say, a Myers-Briggs personality test, or any other kind of personality test that's available in a psychologist's office. If you have any interest in figuring yourself out in that respect. Now, I recognize that they are broad generalizations, but I think they can be really helpful in terms of sort of understanding what your approach is. Everyone has different tendencies in their personality. There are people who tend toward excitement. There are people who tend toward fear, and these may not be permanent tendencies. They may they may be very fluid. But I think it's really kind of important to sort of acknowledge what those tendencies are, play with them, experiment with them, learn from them, and grow as a result of it. It's a part of knowing who you are. And now, of course, that is a trap. I fully recognize that as a person who is an enthusiast about psychology. I recognize that the human brain is great at confirmation bias. So, in fact, I'm totally good at it. So, what that means is that if you label yourself and you convince yourself you're that label, then you end up describing your entire self using that label. And, it's an overgeneralization. And then you come up with rationalizations about explaining your behavior because you've got certain ideas about who you think you are, and you pick up on evidence uh, to confirm your thoughts about who you think you are. That's where this concept of labeling as disabling comes from, right? A lot of teachers use that phrase. They try not to label their students, and for good reason, because people tend to take these labels really seriously, and then they use it to justify their behavior, and particularly if these ideas aren't constructive, right? These labels aren't constructive, then um, they can be they can be a problem if a person dwells on them too much. So yeah, I am. So I hope you're doing well. I sent you a couple videos last night. One of them had to do with one of my friends' fundraiser, Nicola Gordon, and um, I also sent you a video about me going into the ocean last weekend. I went stand-up paddleboarding, and that was a blast. I really enjoyed that. Went to the beach, hung out with some friends out there, and I was really happy to come back with photos that I was really proud of. And it really was a great experience. I felt really energetic out there on the water. I was just flying. And I would not be opposed to getting a stand-up paddleboard, but I have a feeling that I wouldn't use it very often. That it's probably better for me to rent stand-up paddleboards. Yeah, because first of all, they're big, they're heavy, they're hard to transport, and I mean, how often do I go to the beach anyway? It's really not that often. Although I've been hoping to go to the beach more often. So, Em, I hope you're doing well yourself. I hope that you're doing well in your classes. It is Labor Day today. It's a holiday, so I know that you're home, and I hope you're finding enjoyable things to do. If you have an interest in doing something together, I would totally be up to it. Um, I make time for my friends, and I am. You are priority to me. Night or day, morning or afternoon or evening, it doesn't matter. Any indication of you from you that uh, you'd like to spend some time together, shoulder to shoulder, having fun, having an adventure would just be a dream come true for me, an absolute dream come true. And so, anyway, I'm open to receiving any signals of interest from you, and and I know you receive signals from me all the time. I mean, I just sent you 2 videos yesterday, last night. And, I send you a letter every week, and I'll be writing another letter for this week, maybe today, that I'll be sending you. So, I mean, I want you to know that I do my best to make myself available to you. And I know that availability is important, it's critical. And anyway, I've been trying to make myself available for a long, long time, and I'll continue to do so in the future. I'm optimistic that things will work out between us and we'll be able to repair our relationship. Um, I'm hopeful. Even after all these years, I'm hopeful that that'll come to pass. And it is my highest dream, that there'll be some resolution, some alignment, and that we'll find a creative solution to whatever's causing this separation. Um, anyway, I have decided to move to Goleta, California, and I'm going to be doing some apartment hunting today. Doing apartment hunting online and in person. I'll probably be going down to Goleta today. Gonna go see what I can do to find some 1-bedroom apartments. There's probably not going to be a lot of activity today in the business world since a lot of people are vacationing. But I'm going to use this time today to just become more and more familiar with the area and the resources that are available to me to help me find a place to live down there in that little city. No, I don't really expect my move to have much of an impact on us and our relationship. Um, and if it does start having an impact, then I'll just move back to Lompoc, right? When I can foresee that impact will happen, the fact is I'm super duper flexible about how I go about my life. I just have this inherent flexibility that's just, I don't know. Sometimes I bend over backwards for stuff. But, it's surprising how little I'm sort of like a mental gymnast. I don't know. It's kind of funny. My personality is such that I can be somewhat rigid and fixed. But then again, there are other areas in which I'm totally fluid. It's like, and I'm still figuring that out about myself. I'm not quite sure where those boundaries are. Those boundaries of fluidity and rigidity. And I have a feeling that they probably just changed with different contexts. So, but anyway, if I tend to change when things that I find important are matter. When there's something that I value very much, like a relationship um, or a situation or an experience, then I'll go for it. I'll move toward that thing, whatever that thing is, whether it's chocolate, chocolate chip cookies, or apples. I'm really looking forward to to the Cosmic Crisp. This is Cosmic Crisp harvest season. So there's an apple, which is a cross between the Honeycrisp apple and the Enterprise apple, two varieties of apple. It's called the Honeycrisp, and it's going to be coming out in stores this year, probably in December. And right now, the growers in Washington are, this is growing. This is picking season. Picking season is happening. So I've been excited about this new variety of apple showing up in grocery stores now for about 6 months. I am not kidding. It's been like, I think I discovered it like in last March or something like that. And so, I mean, it's already September. So it's been about 6 months that I've been anticipating this amazing apple just dropping and making a splash in the retail environment. Now, of course, in the meantime, I've actually been exploring a lot of different apples happening. Like, there's a ton of apples out there. There's Golden Delicious and Yellow Delicious and Gala and Pink Lady and Macintosh and, I mean, Granny Smith. The list goes on and on and on. Ambrosia, Jazz apples, Opal apples, and I've been just enjoying just the whole gamut, just this whole range of apple varieties, loving every minute of it. There's so many apples out there that I love. I'm also finding apples that I don't quite love as much. And what is also quite interesting is I'm finding that it so often doesn't even matter what kind of apple I get because every apple is this unique gem into itself with a flavor combination, a combination of sweetness and sourness, a combination of crispiness or mealiness that is very unique. And I'm really beginning to love just whatever combination that shows up. Like when I taste a really mild apple, my first impression is that I don't care for it very much because I like a moderate to strong apple flavor when I eat apples. Not every apple has that. There are apples that are very mild and bland. There are apples that you bite into them and it's like, is this even an apple? It has the texture of an apple, but you really have to fight to find the flavor, to seek out the flavor of the apple that you've just bitten into. And, I really can appreciate the mild flavored apples. They're not necessarily my preference. I prefer a bolder flavor. But here's the thing. I've also had apple flavoring that was too bold. I mean, these are apples that are just a punch in the mouth. It's like, whoa, that is an apple. I mean, they're standing like Superman, in some courageous, heroic stance saying, I am apple, hear me roar. And it's a little bit much for my mouth sometimes. It's kind of funny. I think that my preference for apples sort of changes with the month and the day and my personality and my mood in the moment. There are apples that are to be savored outdoors, apples to be savored indoors, apples to be savored in the cold that are chilled, apples that are best unchilled or can be unchilled and still be quite enjoyable. So, there's an apple for everyone out there. And the many moods, there's an apple for the many moods of Miguel too. So let's see. Oh, so I've got some really exciting news. I recently purchased a new zoom lens. Wow, it's in fact coming in the mail today. And I'm super stoked to receive it and test it out. I bought a zoom lens. It goes from like 55 millimeters to 200 millimeters, which means that I can zoom up pretty close to the subjects that I'm taking a photograph of. And that is great from a photographer standpoint because that means I don't have to get close, that I can use my lens and magnify the image as much as I want. So I'm really psyched about that ability to get up close to my subject. And that means that I can spot or see a lot of details in my photographs, get up really close and personal uh, with the image. And I'm just really excited to have this flexibility, this new lens. It's going to provide a whole new perspective on my photography, and I'm just like super stoked. I think it's going to be the main lens that I use all the time. Um, it's got things like, autofocus, and anyway, I'm pretty excited about this new lens. And I theoretically get to try it out today if the UPS store is open. I'm not sure if the UPS store is going to be open or not. But I think that it'll likely be the lens will likely be delivered today. So anyway, I like sort of experimenting with this new dimension of photography, and I'm pretty excited about what the possibilities are for it. So let's see, what else is in my field of attention? What else is going on with me? So I have a feeling you've probably hiked Gaviota Peak. And last weekend, not only did I do stand-up paddleboarding, but I also tried to go to a hot springs at or near Gaviota Peak on that hike. And I actually went the wrong direction. Oh my gosh, I can't believe I did that. I kind of went the wrong direction when I went hiking, and ended up not going to the hot springs because I just went the wrong way. It strikes me that actually today I could actually go to the hot springs today and give it a shot. I don't think I will because I want to go running tomorrow. I want to hit the treadmill and work out. I want my legs to be fresh so that I can run my 5.5 miles on the treadmill in relative secure enjoyment of the strength of my legs and my muscles. So yeah, I tried to visit a local hot springs and did not make it. Sometimes, here's the thing about life. Sometimes you don't succeed. So here's another gem of information that I'm going to throw out to you, Emily. Here it goes. Sometimes you don't succeed. Sometimes you go through hardship, disappointment. Life is filled with it at every angle. On some level, everyone is failing something continuously all the time. It's just, you can't be 100% successful in everything. And I'll tell you why. Because there's natural value conflicts that occur. There's natural value conflicts. You can't optimize one value. You mean you can't get 100% of one value because there are always values at loggerheads with one another, and they're all competing in this sort of field of meaning, in this space of meaning or field of meaning. And it's like freedom versus responsibility. You can never succeed in being 100% free. It's just not that. It's just not possible, because responsibility and the need for responsibility shows up at some point. And so you're always in a point where you're trying to optimize one set of values over another. And the fact is that life is so complex, so multidimensional, so multi-layered. There's so many moving parts that my mind is actually not capable of managing all the moving parts. I think that there was a study that said that human beings can hold maybe 7 individual separate concepts in their mind at one time. That's the span of our attention. We just can't do anymore because our brains just aren't built that way. We can focus on 1, 2, 3 dots, 4 dots, 5 dots, but 7 dots, anything more than 7 dots. And I'm lucky if I can get to 3 dots. I'm lucky that if I can take I can take three concepts and integrate them together into some kind of coherent behavior or task or act that is purposeful. A lot of the time, I'm just along for the ride. You know, it's kind of funny. So yeah, there's this thing. It's a thing about optimizing values in the face of values conflict. How do you do that? How do you balance it all? You know, life is so complex, so changing, and people are complex and changing. You know, they may feel secure one day, insecure another day. They may feel joyful one day, afraid another day. You know, human beings, we're just so dynamic. We're such dynamic creatures. So dynamic, energetic, dynamic that I don't know how we keep it together, honestly. I know I could keep it together. I've done a good job at pulling things together, disparate things together, and I do it continuously all the time. And I think I do a good job of sort of collating or correlating or curating my life experience and behaviors. But it is no easy task. And there are some who are more or less skilled at it. Thankfully, I'm old, basically, over the years as I become more mature. It's just gotten easier for me to pull things together. When I was younger, it was a lot harder. You know, Emily, I have a lot of compassion for you in your teenage years. This is a time of extreme richness and creativity and boldness, and how you're just busting out at the seams, growing in so many ways, growing with your understanding with yourself, in relationship to others, and your living situation is just. I'm grateful that your living situation is static, so that you can use that as a solid platform to grow. I want to help ensure that static foundation for you. I want to make sure that that foundation exists, so that you can grow and learn and change and focus on yourself and develop yourself to become this amazing woman that I know you can be, and that I know you will be, and that I know you already are. You know, life is just a series of stepping stones to further growth and development. And I think I've done pretty good so far. I haven't managed to screw things up too bad. So what else is going on in my mind? So I was thinking that I would do a triathlon this year, and I have got my bike finally. And so I guess theoretically I could probably do my first like triathlon trial this week. That would be interesting. That's an interesting thought. I could definitely do that. I could do 5 miles of running, do 12 miles of biking, and then do, say, a kilometer of swimming back to back. That would be an interesting test. Here's the thing. Training for a triathlon throws off my entire training regimen. You know, you'd think, I just don't train to do triathlons at the gym. I train a lot of different things. I do all kinds of things to change it up, all kinds of exercises that have nothing to do with triathlons. Oh boy, every time I do these videos, I become tired and I begin to yawn. I've made a connection between being tired and doing these videos. That's just, I think the reason is because I do these videos is either early in the morning or in the evening, late at night. And so um, I've just got this association that I'm tired and sleepy when I do these videos. And it shows, it comes out. Essentially, what I've done is I've anchored certain mood and feeling to these videos, to the act of performing these videos, to this behavior. And so every time I'm doing it, I sort of unconsciously get tired because I've anchored fatigue to the task of talking with you. It's tragedy, is what it really is. It's a complete tragedy. But, that is an exaggeration. It's really not a tragedy. And I'm quite happy to be here and happy to use this amazing technology to reach out to you and connect. And, hopefully, find some mutuality between you and I. Find some kind of common ground that we can stand on and we can experience together, acknowledging one another, presence one another. And, I do that through my letter writing. I do that through my sending videos. I do that through sending music, music your way that I've been listening to lately. For me, it's all about building a foundation of trust and acceptance and commonality. And, it's how families are built. Yeah. So I'm here making an attempt to build a family and build that family, a firm family relation with you as a father-daughter pair. And, you know, I only hope that my intentions are um, apparent, that they're real to you. And let's see, what else is going on with me? I'm just cleaning up my place, getting it organized, getting ready for the move. Um, what else is in my field? Well, there's my photography class. It's kind of funny. There isn't much going on other than the basic stuff, other than the basic survival, the day-to-day stuff. There's school, there's work, there's social, there's computers, there's food, bananas and strawberries and blueberries. So that's what's going on with me. So, I think I'm just going to wrap this up. And I just want to say thank you very much for spending some time with me. I know it's not easy for you to carve some time out of your day. And, for me, being with you is important. It's about me expressing my care for you, my, uh, for me, it's really also an act of generosity. I, as your father, I am filled with this unconditional love and absolutely bursting at the seams with generosity for you. At least that's what I've come to recognize. And um, I just want to give you everything that's mine: my time, my energy, my resources. And it's just, for me, I'm like a fountain of giving. And for me, it just comes natural. And I just, I'm continuously offering myself, my time, my energy to you. And those offerings are real, every one of them. And I try to offer them in a as direct a way as possible, so that my offerings might resonate with you. And I hope you get a sense that they are genuine, that I'm sincere in my devotion to you and your growth. And I just want to thank you for at least allowing me to be in your presence to provide my offerings. In a way, they are how I worship you and love you and honor you, care for you. They're how I provide this context of benevolence and, I don't know, care. That's how I do it. It's my style. What can I say? I'm not sure. I don't know how others do it necessarily. I don't have a lot of good experience that I don't see it quite often, but I think I've got my own style of giving and you your own style of receiving. And, it is what it is. And so I'll accept it. Anyway, like I said, I'm going to finish up here and I hope you have a wonderful day, a wonderful Labor Day weekend. And I hope you have a great school week as the week continues and moves on into the weekend for this first week of September. All right, girl, I love you. I sincerely do. Bye bye.